Is our universe really as it appears to us? Or is it just a layer, a possibility, a tiny particle floating in an ocean of infinite possibilities? And if I tell you that quantum physics today is pointing towards the same truth that the vision of the Upanishads experienced thousands of years ago, would you be ready to know this mystery? Quantum science tells us that reality is not as solid as we believe. It suggests that there may be countless parallel universes, where every possible version of your life, every decision, every possibility is unfolding in different forms. In one world, you chose one path, in another, a different one. And somewhere else, your story might be flowing in a completely different direction. This idea is not just a scientific imagination, but points to the deep mysteries of consciousness and reality. But here a question arises: is this knowledge truly new, or is it a rediscovery of the ancient truth that our sages knew through meditation and self exploration? Is the Upanishadic concept of Brahman, Maya, and the infinite creation deeply connected to today's multiverse theory and ideas of quantum consciousness? If you also want to know this truth, write in the comments, search for truth, because what you are about to hear can change your perspective on reality. Today, we will understand that invisible bridge between science and spirituality, where the knowledge of the Upanishads and quantum physics point in the same direction, towards an ultimate truth that exists not only in the universe, but also within you. Now, to understand this mystery, we must enter the world of quantum physics, where reality behaves in a way completely different from our understanding. Imagine you are throwing tiny balls at two slits on a wall, and on the screen behind, you see two clear marks exactly in front of those two slits. Everything seems straightforward and logical, just as we see in the everyday world. But when scientists performed the same experiment with tiny particles like electrons, the results shook the very foundation of physics. When electrons were sent one by one, instead of two lines appearing on the screen, a remarkable pattern of multiple lines emerged, called an interference pattern, just like waves of water collide and create a web of waves. This meant that a single electron was behaving not only as a particle but also like a wave, as if it were passing through both slits simultaneously. But this is where the mystery deepens, because as soon as scientists tried to find out which slit the electron actually passed through, they placed a detector, and at that very moment, the entire result changed. Now the electron stopped behaving like a wave and started behaving like a particle again, and only two lines appeared on the screen. This is the observer effect, where the very act of measurement changes reality. Here, seeing does not mean looking with the eyes, but any kind of measurement or interaction. As long as no measurement was made, the electron existed simultaneously in all possible states. This is called superposition. But as soon as it was measured, it seemed to choose one reality. Now, the biggest question arises here. If reality changes just by measuring, then what happens at the moment when no one is watching? This very question inspired scientists toward a deeper thought. In 1957, Hugh Everett presented a hypothesis that broke the boundaries of our thinking. He said that reality does not end, but splits with every possible outcome. This means that every possibility becomes real in a different universe. In one universe, the electron went to the left. At the same moment, in another universe, it went to the right. Similarly, every decision in your life, every small or big choice, can give birth to countless new worlds. A world where you chose a different path, one where your story completely changed, and infinite such possibilities that can exist simultaneously. Today, many scientists consider this idea as a serious possibility, which we call the multiverse, a vast web not of one universe, but countless universes. But now, another deeper question arises. Is this idea truly new? Or is it the same truth whose glimpse has already existed in our ancient scriptures? And what you are about to learn now will take this entire mystery to a completely new dimension. Now let us take our consciousness back in the stream of time. to that ancient land where the knowledge of the Upanishads was revealed, where our sages did not look at the external world but rather into the depths within themselves. And in that self exploration, they touched the mysteries of reality, glimpses of which are seen today in modern quantum science. According to the vision of the Upanishads, the foundation of this entire creation is Brahman, that one, infinite, formless, and omnipresent consciousness, which neither arises nor ceases, but is equally present in every particle, every possibility, every universe. The mantra of the Isha Upanishad reveals this truth with profound depth. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate. Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashisyate. This does not merely mean that everything is complete, but it signifies that the entire universe is an indivisible source of infinite possibilities, from which countless creations can emerge. Yet the original consciousness remains complete and unchanging. This is the point where the knowledge of the Upanishads and the concepts of quantum physics seem to touch each other, where the field of possibilities itself becomes the foundation of reality. But the greatest obstacle to understanding this truth is Maya, the power that shows us the illusion of diversity in unity, presenting this indivisible consciousness, divided into different names and forms. This is why the world appears solid and separate to us, while in depth everything is an expansion of the same consciousness. This idea aligns with the scientific understanding, where the world that seems solid is actually the result of waves of possibilities, a view that changes upon observation. Now, here opens another profound dimension, that of the soul, which the Upanishads call individual consciousness. When the Upanishads say, Aham Brahmasmi and Tattvam Asi, they indicate that the observer and the observed creation are not separate, but two forms of the same consciousness. This is the point where the observer effect gains a new significance, because if consciousness is the foundation, then its effect on reality becomes natural. And here an amazing similarity is seen, the concept of infinite universes. In ancient Indian texts, especially the Puranas, there is a description of countless universes where each universe is considered to exist with its own distinct order in creation. This description represents not only a physical structure but also a profound philosophical indication that reality can be far more extensive and multidimensional than our imagination. In a famous episode, when Lord Brahma appears before Lord Krishna, he is asked which Brahma he is, and through this, it is implied that many Brahmas and many creations can coexist simultaneously. This episode symbolically explains that our world, our story, may be just one among infinite possibilities. And now the question arises, is this merely a philosophical imagination, or is it the very truth that modern science is also pointing towards, where the multiverse is becoming not just a theory, but a potential structure of reality? Now, when we look at these two streams together, a wonderful confluence emerges. On one side is modern physics, which seeks truth based on experiments, mathematics, and evidence. And on the other side is the vision of the Upanishads, which reaches the same truth through meditation, experience, and intuition. Though the paths may be different and the languages may vary, both seem to point in the direction of the same ultimate truth. First of all, it is essential to understand that what we consider solid and stable reality is not as permanent as it seems. Quantum physics suggests that this world is a web of subtle waves of energy, where reality does not take a definite form until it is observed. This is exactly what Advaita Vedanta has been saying for thousands of years. Brahman alone is the truth, and this world is not as it appears. It is a manifested form, an experience connected with our consciousness. Now, the question of consciousness becomes even deeper here. In science, the observer effect shows that the act of observation itself can influence the outcome. But how exactly this effect works remains a mystery to this day. On the other hand, the Upanishads clearly state that consciousness is the fundamental basis from which everything arises, and in which everything is experienced. When the observer and the observed object are not separate but forms of the same consciousness, it becomes easier to understand why observation affects reality. And then comes the idea of infinite universes, where science presents the possibility that our universe is not alone, but may be part of many possible universes. This is the same indication found in the Upanishads and ancient Indian philosophy as infinite, countless universes, where innumerable worlds and creations can exist together. This is not just a philosophical imagination, but a sign of the deep realization that reality is not limited, but spread out in infinite expanse. Now, the question arises whether this is merely a coincidence or whether our sages had developed their consciousness to such a level that they could directly experience the truth, which science today is trying to understand through its instruments. History also provides indications that some great scientists themselves began to comprehend this direction. Erwin Schrödinger, who played a significant role in the development of quantum mechanics, was deeply influenced by the ideas of the Upanishads. He suggested that ancient knowledge and modern science are not opposed to each other, but rather complementary. And this is the point where the mystery deepens even further, because on one hand, there is a meditator immersed in the tranquility of the Himalayas, and on the other hand, a scientist working in a state of the art laboratory. Both seem to arrive at the same conclusion despite following different paths, that this universe is not just what we can perceive, but far more vast, subtle, and mysterious. But now the most important question is, what is the relevance of this knowledge to our lives, and how can it transform our existence? Now the most important question arises, what is the relevance of knowing all this to our life, and how can this knowledge change our existence? It is not just an interesting thought, but a gateway to a deep inner revolution that can change the entire way we see, think, and live. When we view life from this perspective, the first thing that changes is our attitude towards failures. If this creation is filled with infinite possibilities, then our current life is just one among countless possibilities. This does not mean that our decisions become meaningless, but this understanding gives us the power that no single event, no single failure can define our entire story. We are not just a fixed identity, but an expansion of infinite possibilities, and every moment holds the ability to choose a new path. At the same time, this knowledge teaches us the depth of taking responsibility for our own lives. If observation affects reality, then our consciousness, our awareness, and the resolve within us can shape the direction of our experiences. The Upanishads call this state the witness consciousness, where a person simply observes their thoughts, emotions, and circumstances without getting entangled in them. When you become the witness of the drama of life instead of getting caught up in it, you rise above the influence of Maya and begin to experience reality more clearly. Gradually, this experience deepens, and a moment comes when the realization arises that you are not just a limited existence. You are not merely a wave, but the very form of the entire ocean. The experience of Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman, is not just a phrase, but a state of consciousness, where a person recognizes their true nature. This knowledge naturally calms the ego as well. When you see that this universe is infinite and your existence is like a tiny point within it, the ego begins to dissolve on its own. But along with this, a deep power also awakens because you experience that the same consciousness that governs countless galaxies is also pulsating within you. And if you become still for a moment and look within yourself, you may begin to experience that within you there's not just thought, but the possibility of the entire universe. There is stardust within you, the same consciousness that gave birth to this entire creation is within you. You are not limited. You are infinite. And perhaps this is the truth, understanding which is the real purpose of this entire journey. We are truly living in a wonderful time, a time when the profound explorations of modern science are leading us to the very truth that our sages experienced in the depths of their consciousness thousands of years ago. The concept of the multiverse is not just a scientific idea. It invites us to reconsider our existence, our reality, and the meaning of our being. When we view it from this perspective, it becomes clear that we are not part of an ordinary story, but rather fragments of an infinite, vast, and mysterious creation whose depth is far beyond our imagination. This understanding makes us humble from within and fills us with a deep sense of wonder. The next time you look at the calm sky, don't just see the shining stars, but feel those infinite possibilities, those countless worlds, those innumerable stories flowing together in this universe. And one of those stories is yours too, which you shape with every moment, every thought, and every decision. Now, I want to ask you a question. Do you also feel that the knowledge of the ancient Upanishads and modern science both point to the same ultimate truth? If yes, please write in the comments the quest for truth, because your one thought can deepen this dialogue. And if you want to understand such deep, mysterious, and consciousness awakening knowledge, then stay connected with us on this journey so that together we can discover the truth that exists not only in the universe, but also within us. Thank you.